here with Ted Higginbottom. Sorry for the audio issues, but yeah, he's the owner of this absolutely spectacular C4 Corvette built for land speed racing out in the Bonneville Salt Flats.
Yes.
But I guess Mother Nature hasn't cooperated with you lately, has it?
No, she didn't. We've driven, I guess, a round trip 3,800 miles 2 years in a row. The year before last, we got out there and it flooded the whole salt flats, so we didn't get to run. And then this past year, as most people know, it did rain again. They finally ran a 3-mile short track, but the pits were still somewhat underwater, and we made the decision not to unload the car. So hopefully this August it'll be hot and dry in Bonneville Salt Flats.
Okay, and you have a plan for setting a world speed record, don't you?
I hope so. That is the plan. We built it for a D class, which is a pretty small cubic inch engine. This engine has 294 cubic inches, built by Borowski. I did get to run it finally this year in Arkansas on a 1-mile paved course, just to try it out and try the engine and the transmission. And since I had never actually driven the car, and it handled flawlessly, and we ran it really no boost in the mile, ran 190, and the car handled perfectly. The engine ran flawlessly, and so we're very much looking forward to Bonneville this coming summer.
And what do you think you'll do with 3 miles?
My hope is 225, somewhere in that range. I would be happy with it. It's an open record class, but to get in the 200-mile-an-hour club, they do have a minimum, and I believe it's 222 for this class, so I hope to run over that.
Mm-hmm. And do you plan on taking it as far as it can go yourself, or is your wife going to put the leash on you?
No, my goal is to run it somewhere in the 225 range and hopefully set a record. And my wife actually wants to get licensed in the car, and she might try it.
Oh.
She does want to get licensed in the car after I do.
Well, that'd be something.
Yes, it would be.
But I guess one of the things that we were talking about over breakfast is how you got here, and essentially, we're both boomers, and a lot of boomers had the same story. They had fast cars when they were kids, and then went into remission, and then the kids are gone,
right,
and bang, right back at it. So, tell us about your first fast car.
I had a 67 Camaro SS that I thought at the time it was pretty fast, and used to race it in a quarter mile. Mainly, I grew up in a small town in central Texas, about 1,200 people. We did do some street racing back then, which I would not recommend to anybody anymore, but we did it back then. Of course, you got to remember that's over 50 years ago. Then I ran it at the track some and had a little success with it. After that, I got married, ended up having 4 daughters, and I farmed in far western part of Texas for many years on a pretty large scale peanut, cotton, and watermelon farm. And during that time, I really did not race any at all. We did a little bit of antique tractor pulling, but no racing. In 2013, I leased out my farmland and talked my wife into we need to buy a Corvette to go to church in, that it would be fun to have a new Corvette. So she agreed, and we bought a C6 and drove it completely stock for about 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Then I decided we needed a supercharger on it and did that. I ran it in the Texas Mile. In fact, this past October was my 20th consecutive Texas Mile events with that same car, but we put the supercharger on it, then we put nitrous on it, and now that car runs 226 with.
Okay.
You can't go to church in it though anymore.
But you do have a new car for church, right?
I do. We bought a C4 Corvette that my wife made me promise I would not touch it with any modifications whatsoever, and we do go to church in it.
Okay. So do you have any more car plans in the future, or are you going to stick with what you've got?
My C6, we actually are pulling the engine and transmission out of it to have it freshened up for this coming season, and you know how that goes. We'll probably bump it up a little bit. That's just the nature of the beast. That's my plan. The Bonneville car is, I do not know of anything we would change on it. We passed tech with flying colors at Bonneville, and now all we need is some dry weather and hot weather in Utah so we can run it.
Sitting alongside Kevin Kesterton from M2k Motorsports. Yeah, Kevin, say hi.
Hi.
Kevin built the car to the left of us, the Bonneville car that Ted and Joe were just talking about on the live. Kevin, why don't you go into detail about what you had to do to get this thing built up for Ted and Class Legal?
Yeah, well, it was a pretty massive undertaking. It started out as it came in my shop as a running, driving stock C4 Corvette that Ted's had for a long time, and kind of was in a situation where he didn't want to sell it. It had a little sentimental value to him, and he was like, well, let's make it into a Bonneville car. It'll make a good Bonneville car. And we basically completely gutted it for all intents and purposes because it needed to be heavy. It needed to weigh around 5,000 pounds and run the salt flat. So, we ended up cutting all the fiberglass floor pans and all that stuff and replacing it all with quarter-inch plate and heavy wall tubing for all the roll cage stuff, and just trying to add as much weight as we could, actually, just to get it as heavy as it is, starting out with such a light car, being that it's mostly all fiberglass.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, this thing weighs 5,000 pounds. It's a beefy unit. It's a lot to drive, and we were fortunate enough to be the engine builder for the vehicle. And
in the class that we're running, 305 cubic inches.
Yeah, so currently the engine's 294 inches. It gives us a little bit of wiggle room for freshen ups if necessary, and we fit that profile just fine.
Yeah, it was actually in the beginning we were thinking about running like a 4.8 GM or a 5.3, and then we reached out to Tim and the guys over at Borowski, and they had said, yeah, great idea, but the problem is in the cylinder head. There's not enough options in cylinder head that flow well and make good power. So it's a pretty unique build where it's like a 427 bore essentially, but with a short stroke. So we can run an LS7 head on it, so it still flows well, still runs good, but keeps it in the cubic inch requirements for the class that we're in.
Yeah, so it's a D with cylinder head specifically designed for this combination, camshaft. I mean, everything is well thought out. Took a long time to piece it together.
Yes, for sure.
Fortunately, Ted and Kevin were very patient, and now we get to, for the past couple of years anyways, bring it to Bonneville and just await the rain to
wait for it not to be Lake Bonneville instead of actually a good surface to race on, for sure.
Yeah, well, hopefully this coming year you guys could get out there for Speed Week and enjoy a dry salt bed.
A dry salt bed, yeah, that's the plan anyway. We've taken it to the ECTA, the Arkansas Mile, and ran it on like a airport runway, just to kind of shake it down, test it. We'd hate to take it all the way to Bonneville and, figure out something goofy like the boost controller doesn't work or something crazy like that. Yeah. So we basically took it out there to shake it down, and even in a standing mile, being really easy, low boost, we've still gone almost 190 miles an hour in it.
Yeah.
Just, taking it easy, low boost, just to kind of shake it down, make sure everything's working, the car handles good and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we're definitely chomping at the bit to get it out to the actual salt and be able to run it like it's intended to be ran.
Exactly. Well, I think that about wraps it up today for me and Kevin. Big thanks to Ted and
for
Kevin
sure.
for coming out, getting on our live, and We'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks.